I guess we're loaded into the game now.
They're both wearing hats. Okay, I was not aware of that. That is useful information.
That is important, yeah. Very important indeed. And spawning in the top right-hand side of the map, it is for the big clan. ShoWTimE.
And in the bottom left, spawning as the blue Protoss player, he is GunGFuBanDa. Yeah, nice little PvP to start off. Cats, we've been kind of telling this story a bunch of times, and this isn't just copium because we've had 100 PvPs this season, but the PvPs have been pretty good. GunGfu played another banger series yesterday. Christianer just went mass gateway, tried to kill him over and over again. He was behind a base the whole entire time. GunGfu, that is. He was taking a lot of beatings, a lot of poundings, but he weathered the storm and then eventually got a 4th base and killed him 3 games in a row after losing the first one. So he showed a lot of resilience. He showed a little bit of comeback potential and his ability to adjust over the course of a best of 5. So I'm excited to see how he shapes up against ShoWTimE. I don't know about you. I'd still put ShoWTimE as a favorite, not just because of how handsome he is, but he's been one of the most consistent top Protoss players in Europe for a long time.
A very long time. I mean, he's a little bit of a beast. And also Big Clan put up a new or a nice tweet with, ShoWTimE's face and body on it. You can't go wrong with that. So go support Big Clan as well for supporting StarCraft and ShoWTimE, and retweet that tweet or something. That would be nice. But yeah, I agree with you. I was actually listening to the series against Christianer at the gym while working out, and yeah, you and Roddy were covering it so nicely that I felt like I could see it, and it felt like, or it sounded like there was a lot of back and forth action, a lot of comebacks on either side. So that sets up nicely for today in the PvPs.
Yeah. It was good times. It was good times. So we've got a little cheeky Stargate action from GunGfu, and I love this because he didn't really try to do much like this in that series versus Christianer, and maybe there was like one Stargate-ish build. ShoWTimE may not see.
Oh,
nope,
wow.
Nope, he doesn't know. Huh, that feel when you walk right past it.
Yeah, that feel is, a feel that GunGfu's not gonna get of satisfaction of knowing that it didn't get scouted, but it's a feel that in review players can feel very good about, because clearly you were talking about, and ZombieGrab was talking about how these players have had 24 hours to prepare and whatnot, and it's the kind of thing that you look for. Scouting patterns is one of those things that you can definitely look for in your opponent and try to abuse them. So that might very well be the case here with GunGfu, just checking replays of ShoWTimE.
Yeah, that was kind of awkward with that Adept trying to get up into the base of ShoWTimE. In GunGfu's base. I wasn't sure if that battery was actually blocking it completely. These Adepts kind of poke the Stalker and go back. It's a pretty thick shield battery. And the probe comes around again, only to barely miss the Oracle as it finishes. Like this is all my ladder games, cats. You go around, you scout, you're like, oh, the guy's a barcode. He's 300 MMR higher than me, and then you check everywhere, and this happens. Right into the main base before the battery's done, and 6 or 7 of your workers, 8 of your workers get microwaved by a flying Roomba.
At least the flying Roomba will not be able to get away. So that is a little win for ShoWTimE. But I mean, losing seven. You call them SCVs because you play Terran, but yeah, probes is not going to be particularly good here. So still, ShoWTimE will retain the probe lead after that, and does have an expansion, and he is producing 2 probes at a time. So that probe lead will actually grow. But it's actually kind of nice for GunGfu to get back into the game after just choosing the less economical opening, I guess.
Yeah. Hey, I think this is exactly what you want to do. If you're up against somebody that people would rate above you in a macro game, get aggressive, try to deal some damage. I think the other side of this is that GunGFuBanDa's expansion is obviously incredibly late in a comparative sense, and he is going to be able to move into his blink quickly. But ShoWTimE, I mean, we're going to expect that. Yeah, I guess he's going to kill another Oracle. He's Phoenix. That's another one in the worst possible way. But he lost some probes, but he's still pretty far ahead. He's got a lot of money coming in. So unless GunGFuBanDa's plan is to go for like a big blink stalker all in and cancel this Nexus at the last second, he's just going to be a little bit behind in terms of money.
Yeah, for a second, yeah.
Do you see the start?
Yeah, I was gonna say I'm not in the game. That would be amazing. I actually would love to see that, but yeah, he will be behind otherwise, Nate. So yeah, I'm a little bit concerned for sure for GungFu here, as he is getting that blink, but obviously he won't be canceling the Nexus. It's now finished. 2 probes at a time now in production, but he is still trading behind those 7 probes. So looking kind of difficult.
Yeah. So it was always going to be a challenge, but now we'll just have to see the way that GungFu is going to play it out. He did go for a decent amount of Blink Stalkers kind of into that Disruptor setup. Christianer at this point would probably already have had 6 gateways, pumping out a crazy amount of units to attack. These attempts to just walk in, and they get a probe. They get 2, not too shabby. I mean, I guess that's some information as well. The Adept doesn't really have much use past the early game for PvP, unless you can get a little cheeky run-bys. That's not bad. 3 probes for 2 Adepts at this phase shouldn't really be possible, so that is pretty nice. Now, the Phoenix want to go into the main. There is not a shield battery, so GungFu's like, I don't want to build that defense. I don't want to have to. That's part of why he's got the blink coming in. It's part of why he has so many Stalkers. Just deny the value from the Phoenix without giving up too much in exchange for that.
Yeah, and the Phoenix, I mean, with this many Phoenix, the shield battery is basically a non-factor, right? The probes that get picked up are going to get one shot anyway, very, very fast. So yeah, can't blame GungFu for that choice, as he finally manages to drop down his 3rd. ShoWTimE will be trailing by a 2nd, or is he ahead? ShoWTimE's actually dropped his 3rd a little bit earlier, in fact. So yeah, I mean, things are not looking great for GungFu, even though if we look at things that have happened on the screen, it feels like they should. And to me, I think I speak from a place of ignorance to some degree, but this is what I seem to find every time I see these openings where it's like 2 gateway on the high ground versus 1 gateway on the low ground. It feels like if you don't find ridiculous amounts of damage, or like at least some relevant damage with the gateways on the high ground, it's very difficult to play the game unless you're doing like some 4-gate all-in or something to punish it straight up, right? So yeah. Yeah.
No, that's a good point. And I think for PvP, it's gotten to this point where everybody has gotten really, really good at dealing with a lot of these early back and forths, because, you know, Protoss players, they don't just like to abuse all of us on the ladder. They also like to abuse each other with these crazy all-ins and going for big plays with the Prisms and the Oracles. And as we saw in the beginning of the game, ShoWTimE was able to kind of shrug that off. But we end up with a similar worker count, and both of them getting their 3rds set up at, you know, pretty much the same exact time. ShoWTimE is going to bring the Phoenix in again. The advantage of having this, not only did he shut down the Stargate, which, you know, a lot of the time GunGFuBanDa kind of relies on those Oracles to scout for him and keep tabs on everything, get the revelation, etc. But with the Phoenix, it's just that map presence where it's very hard to send any units out, and it's also very easy for ShoWTimE to scout because he can just constantly fly in and out and not really risk too much.
Yeah, exactly. And there wasn't no commitment to the Phoenix whatsoever. I really like what ShoWTimE has been doing, because he has been lengthening his lead, if not in that worker count that you were talking about. It's just been in the tech department. He is much or considerably quicker to +2 as now GungFu starts his own. And he is getting charged, has a lot of Immortals, which account for the Blink Stalkers, which is basically the tech that GungFu has been working with up until this point. He is looking to add Disruptors, but it's just not there right now. So yeah, I mean, compositionally, this also looks great for ShoWTimE at this point in time. Disruptors might have a say in the matter, though.
Yeah. Now, here's the interesting thing. Because he went for these Phoenix, and he has the Stargate already, he also has the side benefit of having I mean, that's kind of an insurance policy against Disruptors, too. If you get the Graviton lift up, that will cancel the Nova. We've seen that happen a couple of times. I think it actually was a kind of a factor in GungFu's series against Christianer. And he got to the point where he was able to move out with the Stalkers and keep the Disruptors separated without exposing them. We'll see if he can do that this time around, as the Phoenix will come in and kill some of the gas mining probes, slow down the tech of GungFu a little bit if he can. And while all of this is happening, he is setting up for a big push onto that 3rd base. It's just Stalkers for GungFu. The Disruptors are not really in play yet. So this Charged Zealot Archon army can't really be force fielded. So big potential on the table. The first Disruptor is here. It's going to get Graviton lifted though, Cats.
Yes, it should. You were mentioning it, and you're absolutely right. That is so difficult. The center's not playing a part here. There's enough Archons, and they're spread out enough that the force shields are not going to do anything. GungFu trying to do the best that he can to tuck himself back in, and the shield battery overcharge has been spent. And in spite of him grabbing the best possible spot that he could, because there wasn't enough surface area for all of the charge slots, it's still enough for ShoWTimE here. A very clean, I wanna say a very easy victory in this game 1.
Yeah, that was tremendously smooth, and it all kind of flowed the way that we were watching it, right? He had the Phoenix, he was able to weather the first Oracle because he had his expansion so fast. It didn't end up hurting him economically that badly, and he used that little economic lead that he still had to get into that big Zealot army. And it's like disruptors are great; you can do a lot with them, but until you have several of them out to kind of push those Zealots back or one-shot the Archon with multiple volleys, it is just so difficult to deal with that type of attack with nothing but Stalkers. They don't deal bonus damage. They struggle against the Zealots and the Immortals. The best thing I can point out there from ShoWTimE, he target fired the overcharged shield battery, so it died instantly because he had the 4 Immortals there. And then, of course, the Stalkers were basically getting one-tapped by them as well. So if the Zealots even just die without killing anything and they just tank for the Immortals, that's typically going to be enough. And they did a little bit more than that. So good game 1 victory for ShoWTimE. And as far as GunGFu's concerned, just tough way for it to start. That he goes for the 2 Oracles and the Phoenix are already out there and they kill both of them. I don't know if you maybe don't build the second Oracle. I don't know what that becomes though.
No, yeah, I completely agree with you. I mean, it was such a rough game, right? And it's weird because you opened with the double Adepts, they didn't do much, but the Oracle killed 7 probes. It was unscouted as well. Like we were talking about the position and giving GunGFu props for that, right? Like he chose the perfect position. It was a forward position. It went unscouted. The Oracle arrives right before the shield battery, as it should, because you're giving your opponent credit as well, right? You're saying you're a very good player, like you'll drop the shield battery when you normally drop shield batteries, but this Oracle's that much closer to you, so it'll arrive that much faster. So yeah, it's a difficult one to get much out of. If you're GunGFu, you gotta be feeling kind of dejected after that game, but maybe some adjustments to be made in this one. Spawning in the top right hand side for the big clan, it is ShoWTimE.
And in the bottom left, the blue Protoss player, he is GunGFuBanDa. Those Phoenix, they are a pain in the butt for those disruptors. It's so hard trying to balance it out because, like, GunGFu had really good Blink Stalker micro, but at the end of that game, he was like slowly just blinking them up the cliff into his main because he's like, okay, I just got to retreat. But units that are good at doing that sort of thing, it doesn't usually work very well when it's defensive because then at some point you've just left your base behind if you keep running away, and that's what makes it so difficult. Great use of the prism, and we'll just have to see what GunGFu is going to go for here, because obviously we knew going into this series that ShoWTimE, he has been one of the absolute rocks of the European StarCraft scene. Great practice partner. I don't think I've ever heard anybody have anything bad to say about him, unless they were salty that they lost, and even then they still gave him props, wanted to shake his hand, etc. Just an all-around good guy, right?
Yeah, lovely person indeed.
Ooh.
GunGFu gonna be using the little bushes there to try and hide another proxy here. It's very likely to be another Stargate, but it could be a Robo given the pathing. It's actually pretty close to the expansion, so a little bit of a what will it be here, right outside of the path. So ShoWTimE would have to deviate from the standard scouting path and then check behind the bushes. So I like it, and it's gonna be Stalkers here. So very likely a Robo indeed from GunGFu, as he's going to be lacking a little bit of gas for the Stargate otherwise.
All right. We got ourselves a cheeky proxy Robo, so the scouting from the part of ShoWTimE is going to be important. I mean, he did totally miss the Stargate last time, but got to be honest with you, cats, I am going to say with 82.69% certainty that if ShoWTimE checks the watchtower, he will see the Robo. Will he check the tower, though? Do you think so? No,
I don't think he will.
You don't think he will?
Well, I don't think he will see the Robo.
Okay, he didn't see it. All right, never mind. Sometimes it just feels good to take a risk,
Yeah, for sure. I like it.
What a rush. Yeah. I'm awake now. I'm awake now.
I'm gonna do that as well. I'm just gonna.
Oh, he's gonna. Is he queued to check it? See, I would.
No, he's not gonna see it.
Damn.
Yeah, it's gonna be a warp prism. So he will be able to bypass this fortified position at the front here. GunGFu will. So that's very interesting. He's adding an extra gateway as well. So we're going to see a little bit of a 3-gateway aggression, though he could cancel this one. And he is. Oh, is this going to be a DT follow-up? Because he's dropping a Twilight Council.
Now ShoWTimE is chrono boosting out of Void Ray, and
Mm-hmm.
we've done this song and dance a few times, by the way, in this season. I'm getting some vibes from the Max Packs games, and
Mm-hmm.
one of the things I do like about ShoWTimE is that he has stopped building. He stopped building probes for a moment to get his robo out, but it's kind of
Okay.
awkward because it is going to be, like you said, just the straight to the prism. So if he
Oh,
goes
this-
mass stalkers with this as a follow-up and he tries to be aggressive in that way, then oh yeah, just use the shade, go back to the prism, 2 probes. I was gonna say, you know, we've had a couple of Protoss players beat down this Stargate opening, 1 gate expand by just smashing mass stalkers and just warping in relentlessly towards the front. But obviously if he tries to turn the prism into phasing mode now while the Void Ray is chasing, that will not end well, so has to wait for these stalkers to back him up.
For sure. I really like the opening of GungFu. He could have killed 3 probes, ended up killing only 2 as he didn't sink the last shot of the Adept. But it was a cool opening because it opens with Stalkers, which gets Adepts out of kind of the mind of ShoWTimE and then goes into the main of ShoWTimE with 2 Adepts. So given the circumstances, I feel like ShoWTimE managed it and handled it really nicely. I was thinking maybe a Dark Shrine with 99% certainty, but I was wrong. And the reason I was thinking that was because I thought this build was aimed to be as aggressive as possible. And as you can see here on the aggression, Blink is not ready, right? So it will be a 1-baser, but it will have to wait for that Blink. So right now, GungFu is just trying to do what he can to kind of utilize his units while waiting for his upgrade.
Yeah, and Stalker's trying to poke that ramp again. But I think the key here is the Immortal. When we talked about what has caused Protoss players to lose, like Max Packs, when they were getting all in by this, Void Rays can get bursted down, but that's actually just getting through. That's very dangerous. The Immortal is the anchor against the Stalkers, and it's far better than the Void Ray defending these. But now with Blink about to be done, I worry that we're going to see a big Blink just onto that Immortal since the support network, the infrastructure.
Yeah. Option to blink into the Immortal, which got removed its shields by just that 1 single Adept shooting at it. Option to blink into the main as well. But at this point, you finish the Cybercore first. I would imagine, no, never mind. Shield battery overcharge is going to save that. But now you can bypass all of this shield battery fortification and the wall of in the natural by blinking into the main. That's exactly what GungFu is looking to do. A beautiful blink there. Includes all of the units. Takes 2 Stalkers down for free right away. The shield battery is going to be gone before any of the army here joins. And one of those Immortals doesn't have shields. And if GungFu knows which one it is, maybe he can blink onto it. Oh, we got to be careful there. But yeah, good by GungFu so far. He needs to keep it up.
Yeah, and the Cybernetics core at risk here as well. Now that he's getting up to the 3 Immortal mark, then you're reaching the territory where the Stalkers will struggle, so he has to make a move, and he does, getting one of them very low with the shield battery, ending up being enough, at least for now. Let's not forget GungFu is on 1 base, so this is all or nothing for him. Those Adepts make it back into the main mineral line. A couple of probes for ShoWTimE get popped, but economically he is still okay. He has more workers than his opponent, and they are spread out across 2 bases, so his resources will last a rather significant amount of time. But the observer that he has between the bases is what makes this so annoying. Comes up, just snipes that. I think that was a gateway he was trying to build there, and it's just a very, very frustrating spot. But if he doesn't kill him eventually, and it just becomes like a crazy amount of Immortals that he can start to split them between his bases, then I think it gets even more awkward. But I don't know. I don't know what the way forward here for ShoWTimE is. GungFu's realizing that he might not be able to kill him, so he's going to expand. But ShoWTimE is still in a kind of awkward spot because he doesn't actually have any later stage tech to really use. You know, if he tries to move out with the Immortals, GungFu can just use the Prism or blink into his main. So he has a really strong contain with this type of attack because he's supply blocked there. He was chrono boosting the Robo facility, but the Immortal only just started with the chrono ending. And I don't think he has a Twilight Council. So without Blink, it's just really, really difficult to turn this money into something that can allow him to leave his base.
Yeah, I mean, the Cybercore got picked off as well, remember? So it's gonna, you know, now it just finishes. But yeah, ShoWTimE hasn't been able to reinforce with the units that he would like. Instead, he has Zealots without charge that he had to just warp in to spend his money at some point. But here comes a little bit of a move out. I love what you were pointing out because the contain is not by virtue of potentially fighting this army. I think that GungFu wants to disengage against the 2 remaining mortals. The contain is exactly this move right here, which is you can blink into the main and bypass it. You pointed that out perfectly. And now ShoWTimE having to adjust there, utilizing one of his recalls in order to defend, but the other half of the army is going into the natural. And this has been a wonderful masterclass of GungFu as far as multi-prong harass. Just trying to get value out of whichever units are on the low ground and kind of having 2 squads of units at all times where he's poking at those shield batteries and making things very difficult for ShoWTimE. Finally, his expansion is up 2, but he is trailing behind 11 workers, now 10, so has to make this army work a little bit better. Does have the tech advantage in the blink, but yeah, I mean, in a straight up fight, the Immortals will crush, I think.
A very, very difficult situation to be in. I mean, if you get like 4 Immortals, you start one-shotting things. So the fact that he's been slowly picking them down has been really nice. The Adepts make it back into the main base. That Prism from GunGFu has been generating some crazy value, and maybe this is the way to try and bring down the wall as D Mauer finds himself scrambling to deal with this attack. GunGFu did secure his natural. He's still not ahead or even on the probe count, but he is continuing to build them, and the Prism gets away by the skin of its teeth again.
Yeah, beautiful moves from GunGFu. They're microing on 2 fronts very, very rapidly. And now he's going to back away. I mean, the supply is, kind of even-ish, with a slight advantage for GunGFu on the army supply there, and a tiny advantage for ShoWTimE on the worker count. So ShoWTimE is going to be securing his 3rd here by the looks of it, though. I don't think that's enough stalkers to blink into this army anymore. And yeah, you gotta just go back and chill, probably take your own 3rd if you're GunGFu. You still have map control, so ability to backstab, like you mentioned earlier. Go on.
ShoWTimE's Adepts just did run past the Robo over there too, so I don't know if he had vision of that before, but now he knows for certain where it is. The Prism is coming back with GunGFu.
Oh, wow.
Getting these Adepts out is still important, though, because you do need to get GunGFu out of your face. ShoWTimE's Immortals will allow him to take that 3rd. And the nice part, I mean, it's awkward because you still have the Prism to deal with. That's still the #1 problem. But if he secures this front spot, then it makes it a little easier to defend the entrance to his natural and also the cliff for blinks into the main base. He's just in an exposed spot. So I like that he's going up to 2 shield batteries. Almost would like to see a 3rd one, because I do think GunGFu is going to bring it again. But he's taking his 3rd base. He is outside, though. So I'm still expecting him to try and kill him here with the Prism in the back at the same time.
I think he's looking for harassment more than anything with that Prism for the time being, where the sentries are a little bit of a threat here, though. No Archons this time around, and nice. He could go into the natural. That is beautiful force building and decision-making here from GunGFu, but equally good from ShoWTimE. They're ferrying the units past the force fields, the important ones at that, with that War Prism. So he will reclaim that position, but that got scary for a moment. I mean, you blink into the natural there, and it could get really nasty really fast.
Yeah, it's a very scary spot to be in. The control from ShoWTimE is just fantastic. This is what we've come to expect from him over the years, part of what makes him so tough to kill. And GunGFu going for the kill ShoWTimE strategy is, of course, very high risk, but so far he's been able to deal a pretty decent amount of damage. But it's kind of wild that in spite of everything that's happened, so just to take stock, GunGFu is ahead on resources lost by a little bit, nothing crazy. Neither have really lost that much, but ShoWTimE maintains like this 7 to 8 worker lead the entire game, which is just really impressive, because at any point, if he overprobes, I think that GunGFu's attack could have actually killed him. So just a good understanding of the situation that he's in. But look at these charge lots coming in now too. I don't know if he's ready for this. The force fields will have to come into play for those.
He may not be. Both players have played a wonderful game so far. I think both players showing like their skill and their full potential here. And yeah, the charge slots are the element that was lacking for GunGFu in the previous game, this time adapting as he is ready to be a little bit more aggressive. He can come at this area from multiple angles here, but he's going to choose just the 1 ramp. I'm not sure if that's a mistake, but he's going to make room for his units by blinking in his stalkers. It could be seen as a little bit risky, but at least it will grant him the position to get rid of that shield battery right away. Beautiful hold position on the probes from ShoWTimE. Is going to glitch a lot of the zealots to not be able to get onto the back and kill those Immortals, which are the main threat to the stalkers at the front. So this is, I mean, a beautiful defense from ShoWTimE as far as I'm concerned. GunGFu now repositioning some of those zealots a little bit late to the party, and as strong as this attack was or is, it's still undecided. I mean, GunGFu is getting ahead in supply. I think he's doing it, Nate, and if he kills this, then he kills the 3rd, and ShoWTimE is just gonna be forced to tap out. That was incredible from both sides, I think.
That's pretty fantastic. I have to admit, that's the type of build that we would say this is exactly the sort of thing that never works against ShoWTimE. He's such a difficult player to break. He's always good at dealing with the harass. He's always good at holding those attacks. But this time around, GunGFuBanDa, he felt around for the weak spot, for the soft spot. He found it, and he just went all in there. That Prism got in and out so many times, and I really do feel if he'd been able to focus everything on his production, he could have busted out of that contain a little bit faster. But having the observer between the two bases and just being able to know, okay, ShoWTimE's moving everything down the ramp, blink into the main. Oh, he's bringing everything up, walk to the bottom of the base, blink out. And if you're ShoWTimE, it's like, well, I need immortals because this dude's massing stalkers on one base, but I also need an observer because that's how he's killing me. So
Yeah.
that's a brutal strategy for that map. Very well done. And now it's tied up 1-1.
No, and that was absolutely beautiful from GungFu. I mean, just the aggression through and through from the beginning, right? Opening double stalker and then going into the adepts and the warp prism, like that can be a little bit tricky to deal with on the side of ShoWTimE, but ShoWTimE dealt with it really well. Only lost 2 probes to that initial mind game of sorts. And then GungFu did kind of a mix where he was playing one base, but going into blink still, right? So he was looking to get value over time from the blink and look for opportunities to kill ShoWTimE. They never presented themselves until later. And then he did the thing that he didn't do in the previous game, where he actually, you know, varied his unit composition a little bit more as he was this time on the aggressive, adds those charge slots. And looking at that attack, like same as you, I think, I thought, okay, like this is going to be extremely difficult, if not impossible for ShoWTimE to deal with, going into the third with those charge slots. But then ShoWTimE had such incredible micro with the probes there to hold all of the charge slots between the Nexus and the mineral line. So a lot of those charge slots were actually not outputting the damage that they should have. And yeah, I thought ShoWTimE might have a chance to hold on the back of that, but it was still a little bit too overwhelming. So.
I think it's because it was the immortals that he was backed up into. Even if he didn't have the surround, the immortals were just shooting the zealots because they dove onto them. So took away his ability to burst those stalkers down because he did not have as many gateway units. The immortals had to carry the whole thing. Like if he had a couple extra bucks and he knew it was coming, I think you slam down like a gateway or two, like just block that off, choke the zealots up even worse. But that may still not have been enough because it's just that open area around that base. Makes it a little easier to get that surround.
I think that's a very good point. It was of course occupying the immortals time, which would have been best served killing the stalkers to the left. So if that had been the same trick with 2 stalkers instead of 2 immortals at the choke, I think ShoWTimE probably holds because the stalker numbers would be dwindling on the other side. That's a really good point, Nate. And we are into the next game here. It is going to be on Cosmic Sapphire. And in the top left-hand side, it is the player for Big Clan, ShoWTimE.
And his opponent trying to prove himself as one of the top European Protosses. He is GunGFuBanDa. All right, another cheeky proxy this game, Paolo. Maybe
so.
Maybe. Oh, well, this looks like a normal probe scout. But his proxies haven't been like that early, you know?
Yeah. No, yeah, there's still plenty of room for the proxy if they want to go for it. But yeah, I keep thinking back to that engagement. It was just such a beautiful game, and that engagement had mistakes from both players, right? Like because GungFu also shouldn't have all of his zealots there, right? Like the zealots should be spread, and he readjusted towards the tail end, but not right away. And then ShoWTimE really could have used those immortals.
Yeah.
Pretty cool series so far. GunGFuBanDa, we can definitely see he's certainly matured as a player to be able to take it to a guy like ShoWTimE like that. And whether he needs to be aggressive or not, like that first game, things kind of got out of hand. I feel like ShoWTimE just had control of it the whole time once he killed the Oracle, even though he did lose some workers. So if GungFu doesn't end up behind on those probes and he just plays to grind it out, I do like that Stalker style. He just needs to keep in mind that ShoWTimE, might do that charge attack again. So if he goes into the disruptors, he needs to either try to put up some sort of wall, use the buildings just to block zealots, if that's what he scouts ShoWTimE doing. And he can use a hallucinated Phoenix to get that information. We could see maybe even just an observer can be a little bit tricky if ShoWTimE is on top of his robotics game. But I do gain my opinion on whether or not GungFu can win this series. Definitely just changed a little bit. I'm starting to feel it a little, but I'm not all the way there yet, Cats. But that was certainly a very strong game. I feel like it would have been so easy to throw that and dive in on the 3 immortals against the battery and just die. But really good patience displayed there despite the aggression.
No, yeah, I completely agree. I think he has shown that he's a little bit of a beast here, GunGFu, and you know, sometimes players can get inspired and really play above their level, but I'm not even sure if that's fair to say given the season that he's had, right? Like, he is playing such a good game. Even when the two adepts were at his third trying to kill the probe, like, GunGFu actually tried to get enough distance to blink where the stalkers would trap or collide with the adept in a way where it couldn't chase the probe. Like, that kind of thought is really, really nice to see, like, at this level, because it really gives me hope that he is really tuned in. He is really kind of focused and really, tuned into the game, right? Like, he is in it. And that is the best way to be. Like, if you're in the zone, if you're thinking actively in a game of StarCraft, then things can happen. Magical things can happen.
Indeed. Indeed, we get this nice cute little split, kind of letting us see the perspective of both the players looking around on the map as the Oracle makes its way across. And the Hallucinated Phoenix knows about that, so for ShoWTimE's sake, he's very likely to have something prepared for this. He's warping in a couple stalkers. Now, there is no battery in that mineral line, so he doesn't need to have units, and that's what makes it a little easier for GunGFu to poke like this, because, well, you used your energy to scout, so it's not like he can block him in there, and it's even with the shield battery, still a very pokeable setup. And he has that Hallucinated Phoenix continue to follow the Oracle, so he knows.
Yeah, this was a beautiful defense all in all from ShoWTimE, though. GunGFu's only gonna fight one probe, maybe two for his troubles. Now he's gonna have to run away the Oracle. It might still get poked. That one more shot would do it, but he will not get it.
Okay.
But yeah, a really cool opening on the other side.
Because full tasteless guttural roar there.
Yeah. On this map, there isn't a ramp, right? So ShoWTimE chooses not to go for the one gate expand that he had been going for in the previous games, but instead he thinks, or probably thinks, something along the lines of, still, if I am going to go for the 2 gates, I'm going to open with a sentry on a map this large, right? Because aggression is going to lose value. GunGFu probably sees that and goes for the stalkers as a response with the Oracle in the back, which I love because it's so difficult to split against it.
Finally.
You need 2 stalkers in the back. There's the proxy. You need 2 stalkers in the back, and you need enough to defend against 4 stalkers when you made 2 sentries, which are awful at fighting. So it's a very difficult defense, very technical defense from ShoWTimE, but he manages it perfectly.
I don't think I could have said it better myself, Cats. It is a good way to try to pull somebody apart, because the 4 stalkers can still beat the 2 because the sentry DPS is like, it's not really existent. But you know what? I've been waiting for someone to proxy up into this useless corner of the map that exists.
Yeah,
it really serves no purpose, right?
It doesn't,
like,
yeah.
This guy's like, well, yeah, I put it on the tail of my car because it makes it go fast. And you're like, no, you didn't. No, dude. It's okay to admit that you just want all your stuff to look like it has wings because you're a Gundam nerd, but that doesn't mean that it's necessary.
Yeah, just wanted to fill up the whole square. Yeah, I completely agree with you.
Else he'll never go over there, so it's very safe.
I empathize with this statement too much. I've been reviewing maps for the TLMC for like the last 2 days. I spent like 12 hours reviewing them on stream, and that is exactly the type of area that I have problems with. It's like, okay, this is gonna see use about in 1% of games, but we are in that 1%, so that's cool.
Yeah, but you know, the bigger the map, the lower the FPS people get on it. It's a performance thing. And what if we cut that edge off and made this map like 2% smaller? All I'm saying is that little bit of FPS could help a lot of people in their maxed out carrier games when the interceptors drag down their CPU. But that's neither here nor there, I suppose. Well, we might get there, but not yet. We're only 6 minutes into this game.
Yeah, absolutely. So here comes the first Dark Templar. There is already an observer out for ShoWTimE. Let's look at the observer. Wow. There it is. So it's on the wrong side, which is good for a GunGFuBanDa, right? No, there's another one spawning and moving on to the correct side, however. So yeah, that's good for ShoWTimE.
Yeah, so for GunGFuBanDa, he does have the Dark Templar coming out now. He's looking for something, but the natural is covered. Actually, even blinking for it. ShoWTimE is beyond ready for it. So very quick shutdown. And I think, did he send the other one in too? Yeah, so the other one died trying to go to the 3rd base. And that definitely hurts for GunGFu. Barely behind in workers. Not really a significant amount, but the army supply is not there. He's got 12 stalkers in his sentry versus 18 and 2 sentries. So obviously those DTs, that's I mean, the gas count of Dark Templar, 2 of them is enough to build like 4 or 5 stalkers, crazy as that is.
Yeah, and the Dark Shrine in itself as well, right? Like all investments that didn't pay off. So they didn't do anything at all, basically. ShoWTimE was just completely ready for it in spite of never scouting that Dark Shrine in the useless corner of the map. And yeah, as a result, I mean, ShoWTimE is kind of miles ahead in this game. It doesn't really reflect it yet, as he is actually trailing in workers somehow by 2, but he is faster to his 4th, and his army is massive. I would love to see ShoWTimE move out if he can, right? Like, just try to pro out on the map and see what he can get done with this bigger army, and that's what we might be seeing now, as he has scouted with Hallucinated Phoenix. He says, okay, that's not enough stalkers, you gotta warp in some more, maybe stop probing a little bit, right? Like, slow down your tech in favor of making units, because I have the potential to apply pressure.
Yeah, and you know, I don't mind the double down here, because he's like, I need to do something to get something going in this game, because he's just down 30 supply without really much happening. So Shadow Stride for the DTs, but this needs to buy him a lot of time, and I'm not sure that it's going to, because the disruptors are not out yet. If ShoWTimE decides to attack reasonably soon, I think another warp in of Zealots could do it, and it's going to be very similar to game 1, where that one disruptor comes out as the big attack is hitting, and well, we saw how that worked out for GunGFuBanDa the first time. I think the only real difference here is that ShoWTimE does not have 4 Phoenix to lift that disruptor up, but he's going to come out here and see the army. But does this give him much? The longer ShoWTimE waits, the better it becomes for GunGfu, though, because his DT blink is almost done, but it's going to be a lot of money that he spends warping those in wherever he decides to.
Yeah, I mean, ShoWTime's taking a 5th. GunGfu hasn't started his 4th, and ShoWTimE is even splitting his army to make sure that the 4th isn't taken. I was going to say, for ShoWTimE, you just look out for that 4th from GunGfu, and then choose to collapse onto it or apply pressure to it when it's taken. But GunGfu needs to really find some magic here, because he is falling further and further behind now, and now he has lost the only lead that he had in those 2 workers. It is now 13 worker lead for ShoWTimE, who is out on the map, has map control, has everything that he wants. The only thing that GunGfu has going for him is a disruptor out on the field, but ShoWTimE is making 2 of those at a time as well.
Yeah, and DTs are going to try to get through, but they have to use their blink to try to run away, getting caught in the middle of the map, and that DT count is completely dealt with. Completely dealt with by the time that happens. So now the armies kind of getting close to each other over here. Up on the high ground is GunGFuBanDa, but the observer for ShoWTimE kind of allows him to still see what is there. But it's so brutal that so many DT 6 Dark Templar have died in this game for nothing. And it's mostly because ShoWTimE was trying to set up this cool 2-prong attack that he just ran straight into them in the bottom left corner. So very nice grab for him. He's trying to set up that 4th base, but ShoWTimE is going to find that weak point, and oh
no! Did we catch that? I think we were on split screen maybe, but GunGfu just killed a bunch of his.
He disrupted like 6 of his own stalkers on the 3rd base. Oh.
Yeah, I mean, that is a juicy shot technically.
Yeah, I guess it's juicy.
It's a really good shot for someone.
Not for him, though.
Yeah, these stalkers are going to chase the other ones away, but that means that 4th is condemned. And remember, ShoWTimE is on 5 bases. He is maxed out. GunGfu is at 133 supply. And I mean, this game with ShoWTimE, you know, if you have to make like a highlight reel to apply for a job, and the job is playing StarCraft, I think as ShoWTimE you probably submit this game and you're like, yeah, I'm kind of unkillable, you know, like I use technical units, like I have my observers ready in both positions by the time DTs arrive, I have a sentries that I have hallucinated, and still, look, if they test me, I'll be ready for that. I'll have 2 stalkers in the main for oracles. Just such a beautiful technical defense from ShoWTimE through and through throughout the entire game, gaining a little bit of an advantage here, a little bit of an advantage there, and all of those just piling up to make this a little bit of a massacre, and I'm not sure what GunGfu can do to recover.
I'm gonna ask you a dangerous question here, Cats. Are you ready?
Yeah.
Has this been basically a perfect game from ShoWTimE so far? Because that's the kind of vibe I'm getting.
Yeah, a little bit. I would say so,
it feels like he hasn't really screwed anything up at all. Like, this is every single thing that could have possibly gone his way has, and he's also been ready to catch and deal with everything. Cancels the +3 weapons, so now he's gonna finish his in about 15 seconds, and he's gonna be the one ahead there too. Obviously, anything is still possible. GunGFuBanDa could still max out. We'll find out. He does have disruptors, but ShoWTimE has not missed a single beat this game. I think he's a little pissed from the way that last one went.
Yeah, I think so. I mean, yeah, the word perfect is oftentimes used in the context of StarCraft for like he hasn't lost any units, but that is a completely unreasonable mark, right? Because
everybody loses units.
Your opponent has to mess up or not be playing up to par if you're not losing units. And this is a very competent GunGfu that just took the previous game. So as far as this game is concerned conceptually and in terms of execution, yeah, it's been pretty perfect, pretty close.
Disruptor almost had a big juicy shot there, and he's continuing to dance in the middle of the map. So what's the move going to be? Is he going to warp Zealots in with this, or he's going to try and blink? The 7 DTs come in. There is the overcharge on the battery.
7 or so cannons there.
Yeah.
Okay. All of the disruptors actually fired, but GunGFu's not gonna pounce on that opportunity. I feel like if he was gonna go for anything, it had to be for the disruptors right there. Try to get the reset. And yeah, because pretty much all of them fired there, and the Stalkers were out of position trying to deal with the DTs, which might have been the first misstep from ShoWTimE, exposing his disruptors there. I understand leaving the disruptors at the watchtower because there's so many that they cover for each other, so you couldn't pounce on them. But over time, he spent all of the shots without connecting any of them. So GunGFu had a small opportunity, missed, however, and yeah, the game continues to be a massacre.
Yeah, this has just been brutal. GunGFuBanDa has been struggling to climb and supply against him, and now there's carriers coming out, and ShoWTimE is the one getting DT blinks. He's like, let me show you how to use these bad boys. If it even comes to that, GunGFu does manage to get a little bit of a jump on ShoWTimE's Stalker count. It's worth mentioning that he is, he's converting a lot of that supply into Sky Toss.
Exactly,
so
yeah.
it's going to slow him down a little bit. The only criticism I'd have of this, he does have +1. I don't need that. Yeah. He does have enough supply, but he's okay. He starts +2 air. That's the only thing I was going to say is make sure you're getting your air upgrades, because obviously that's the best thing for carriers. So he's not going to miss a beat on that. And these Zealots will charge in for ShoWTimE. Look at the splits on this. Like he's playing Marines versus Banelings. Some crazy micro coming out of him. And I don't really think he can kill him here, but he's, I guess, distracting him so he doesn't poke his bases.
Yeah, and that's exactly what you were saying, right? Like if we look at the armies and what's happening in the middle of the map, it looks like maybe GunGFu is gaining a little bit of ground. The supply gap is actually shortening. So you might think that GunGFu is getting a little bit closer to having a little bit of a hope, but it's still going to require like miracle disruptor shots from him, because ShoWTimE has been investing into that air transition that you were mentioning. And once those carriers are out, there's really not going to be an answer for GunGFu to fight head on. And he doesn't have the economy. He's only at 4 bases versus a much larger quantity of bases here for ShoWTimE, which means he doesn't have the economy or the space to attempt at a base race or something like that, right? So it's just, yeah, this should be it.
Yeah, tries to blink on carriers. Disruptors still exist, so the whole army dies. And yeah, I don't think he stops this. I think if you're ShoWTimE, you can do a little cheeky warp in back at that 3rd base, click it to reinforce all of your stuff, and they move this 4th base, because this is really the last vestige of economy for GunGFuBanDa if he's able to bring it down.
Yeah, I'm not sure that I love the 3 extra carriers. Oh, I am lagging. Is everyone lagging? Lag.
Yeah, it looks like the entire thing has...
Referee?
Oh, no. Well, it's going to be okay.
It's going to be okay.
I think the Earth is still spinning. We have not lost our gravitational field, so it's going to be all right.
Okay, that's good.
Yeah.
But yeah, I don't know if I love the 3 carriers, just because I think ShoWTimE can actually win with this push, just warp in a round of Zealots and just kill him. But yeah, I mean, it's safe in a way, right? Like ShoWTimE doesn't want to give anything away in this game, in this series. It's a very important series, and this one's for his lead. So he's just making sure that he retains that lead, and he has done that beautifully through and through.
Yeah. I think one of the other interesting sides of this too is that if you've met a Protoss player before, I think that, if you can kill someone with carriers, you probably want to. I know that he's maybe worried about having to do like the disruptor fight. He's like, the only way I could lose is if like one good Nova gets onto my army, and then I just, oh gosh darn it all. Yeah. So if I get up to 9 carriers, then I'm just going to kill everything anyway, because carriers are just good units, and he has, of course, the disruptors to support them. And we get back into it. But yeah, I mean, we were kind of already there before the drop. So I think we're going to see ShoWTimE just push in and crush GunGFuBanDa's skull right here. And
I think so, if he wants to anyway. But he has been so methodical about just closing this game out that he may not. But you know, if he wants to, I'm pretty sure he can. There we go. No need for you to try, my friend. I know where I'm at, says GungFu. So yeah, I like that from GungFu as well. And ShoWTimE, drinking a little bit of water. You know when your opponent leaves before the fight that you know maybe you're being a little bit too cautious, like in closing out the game. But yeah, he could have closed that earlier. But props to him, and the transitions were beautiful. Like you said, I mean, I can't fault him for going for the carrier transition either, right? At the same time, yeah, you have like 3 more bases than your opponent at most points. But most points in the game, you could probably just kill him with a flood. But the carriers are perfectly fine.
Yeah, and that's I mean, I don't really have any like deep analysis to give there. It was literally like just the smoothest game from ShoWTimE from start to finish. Absolutely nothing went his way. He's like, I'm gonna set up this very elaborate. I'm gonna get my dark shrine in the unusable corner of the map. I'm gonna get blink, and then it's like, no, I've actually got an observer with 4 stalkers at my natural and an observer with 4 stalkers at my third. Both DTs died instantly. He went for the 4 DT run by in the bottom left. Somehow he ran into the split off army by the gold base in the middle of nowhere, and there just happened to be an army with an observer. So everything died, and then he killed the 4th base. And I guess the other way of looking at it is this was everything that could have went wrong for GunGFuBanDa pretty much did.
Yeah, but I mean, it's more that for me, right? For me, GungFu was posing difficult problems to his opponent, and ShoWTimE was just solving them. It's not that GungFu did anything wrong conceptually, right? Like the ideas were good. But it's kind of out of his control. Like, I'm attacking you with stalkers at the front, then I have an oracle in the back. Oh, you're perfectly defended. I'm attacking with DTs. They were unscouted from 2 different angles. Oh, you're perfectly accounted for that, right? Like, there are, I mean, in the history of StarCraft, like that players that come to mind that can do this in the Protoss department. Maybe Rain in his time, Stats in his time, and ShoWTimE, right? And those are the players that strike me as so methodical defensively, like, you know, like that have gained even nicknames just due to their ability to so good and technically defend every angle and just be ready for everything and every timing. And yeah, that's ShoWTimE in a nutshell. So beautiful to watch.
Heck yeah, very solid. There's a reason why he's called the Wall, you know. It also just sounds pretty badass to be called D-Mauer.
Let's
face it.
For sure.
He's kind of a legend in the StarCraft space. If you watch StarCraft, if you think yourself a serious StarCraft fan in any way, you know who ShoWTimE is. You know. Even if you've never watched him play, you've heard the memes, you've heard the legends. It's kind of like how you can't live on planet Earth without seeing Big Gabe towering in the distance somewhere, right? Like, you don't need to even play StarCraft. You know about Big Gabe. Anyway, we're loaded into game number 4. Is this game number 4, Cats? I think it is. In the top left, we have the blue. I'm looking at the wrong screen. In the bottom right, we have the red Protoss player. He is ShoWTimE. My camera started on the blue guy. My apologies.
And in the top left, it is the blue Protoss player for Infernales, GunGFuBanDa. Yeah, Demour the wall. It's not shorthand for, oh, he defended that, he's the wall. It's like, wow, the way that you defend that with, you know, the minimum requirements and like the perfect technical units while still getting out all the pieces that you need to scout and like those little advantages that he gains in the process. It's just really beautiful to see. And the way to break that, by the way, Nate, if there is one, is to mix things up and to surprise ShoWTimE, because he is so methodical, right? Like, he is ready for the DT timing at that time because that is a thing that happens. He is ready for the Oracle because that is the thing that happens at that timing, right? So if you present him with a problem that he hasn't seen, then he might struggle to adapt, or at least I would think that he would. But yeah, I mean, GungFu's gonna have to bring out something crazy, and that was kind of what he brought in game 2 as well, right? Like a very offbeat type of strategy there with the blink and the constant pressure, the adepts in the war prism, just kind of all over the place, and I loved it. So let's see if he has more of that.
Yeah, amen to that.
I mean, he's tried to catch him off guard a few times, right? The Proxy Robo was the game where he was able to get it done. I think something somewhat similar could be annoying on this map because you don't have the ramp that goes into the natural. But on the other hand, ShoWTimE should also be very aware that that would be a possibility. The Proxy Stargate, of course, as we saw earlier, kind of fell straight onto its face as ShoWTimE had the Phoenix opening against the Oracle, which is kind of crazy to think about too, because oftentimes if you don't get that scout, you do want to go for your own Oracle for obvious reasons, but because one Phoenix doesn't really do it, so rushing it out is like kind of like you know, unless you think you might be getting hit with that kind of attack. And I think that's just ShoWTimE's intuition coming into play, and we can see that he's more concerned about making sure that he's not going to get thrown too far off of his plan than he is about dealing damage, because he's like, I don't need to deal damage. I can probably out macro this guy. I just got to play my game and not let him mess with me.
That is the thing, right? And I think that we don't talk too often about in StarCraft, but the way that the players match, they are very aware because they've played against each other hundreds or thousands of times over the years. So, you know, if you're GunGFuBanDa, you go into the series, we branded him as a macro player, like who's the better macro toss? Well, we know it's ShoWTimE. He knows it's ShoWTimE, so he is the one applying pressure, right? It's the same thing that happens, for example, in NA with Neeb. It's like your macro might be as good as it can be, but is it better than Neeb's? No, then it's probably not a good idea to go there. It's not a great idea to go to the late game. Same, and that happens globally to everyone with Serral, right? It's like, you know, and that is one of ShoWTimE's problems as well, right? It's like, oh, my macro, like I am a beast in macro, but if you give me Serral, I'm not sure, you know, then you gotta start trying out different things. So the player that is the most established by virtue of playing against these other opponents as, you know, I am better if it comes to later, claims that high ground to where the other players have to say, okay, then I can't do that. You know, that's an option that I can't take. Okay.
GunGFu slips 2 in. He does cancel the shade at the last moment. The probes were getting pulled to try and bait him. So this was like a double bait. He wanted to move in and maybe get something on the natural, but he's going to get force fielded in. And one of the stalkers does go down. If you're ShoWTimE, you're like, okay, you're adepts. I don't really care too much about those. Yeah, you got the sentry, but killing your stalkers when these are the units that are going to decide the game, that's a little bit more important to me. He already had units in his main ready to deal with the adept, so almost a soft bait play there. And ShoWTimE trades away, as we just saw, 2 sentries for everything else. You know, stalker, 2 adepts, and a probe. But now he's going to get force fielded up the ramp, and I think he really wanted to trade at least for that 1 stalker of GunGFu's.
Didn't get
good play. Good play by GunGFu to step up there and not give it all up anyway.
No, very good. And I mean, those sentries are really expensive on the gas department as well. So actually, after those trades up his ramp, GunGFu, I think, is in a good position, in an even position going into the mid game here. And he's gonna have the quicker blink as well by just a tiny bit of time here. So maybe looking to exploit that. But ShoWTimE is going to retreat and concede the high ground for now.
Yeah, they both definitely think that they're getting blink faster than the other because it is pretty quick, but it lines up within
ShoWTimE is actually faster,
within 4 seconds of each other here. So I mean, if somebody in StarCraft could take advantage of a 4-second timing window, I don't think it's really possible. I think if it finishes in the middle of a fight, but it'd have to be something like a TVT with like Marines where the damage is that fast, right? That it's like a 2-second difference could actually matter, but I don't know that it.
Or like, really say, circlings in CVC, right? If your speed kicks in like 4 seconds earlier, then you kill every other circling if you can take the engagement. Or
that's a very good comparison.
In this case, if it wasn't 4 seconds, but like 10, also like pretty nasty, right? But yeah, you're right. 4 seconds.
So it turns out that 4 seconds is just a small amount of time. I don't know.
Yeah, it's very small. yeah, I completely agree. Beautiful wall by ShoWTimE here is gonna force a blink into the main itself in order to kill some probes, which means the blink will be off cooldown, but the units are not in position, so another blink having to be spent there, and that means the stalkers are now trapped, and trapped they are as ShoWTimE has already accounted for them on the low ground. There is no escaping here for GunGFu. 1 stalker might be able to live, but the other 3 will fall, and a recall spent as well.
Yeah, so he trades away a couple stalkers for 5 probes. And I think for GunGFuBanDa, I mean, this is the first time we've actually seen him not just on even basis with ShoWTimE, but also able to get a little bit ahead on the probe count. So, you know, props to him on that. He's able to move into charge. He's getting his +1. And ShoWTimE is doing the same thing. It's lining up very similarly.
and the unit count isn't that different. So with the Immortal to defend, I think this is a better army for GunGFuBanDa defensively. Right. ShoWTimE won't be able to poke this too much, but he might distract him a little. And these Adepts could wreak havoc if he's not paying attention when they shade into his natural.
Yeah, and we haven't seen ShoWTimE do much of this, right? So it's going to be a little bit surprising, perhaps. The probes have to be pulled, and good warpins here to account for that on the side of GunGfu. ShoWTimE's not going to try to go on the other side, as he knows that base, like you were saying, is very well defended with the Immortal, the battery, and going up the ramp. So nothing going to happen there. But 4 probes do fall to the Adepts. And yeah, I mean, this is looking like an even-ish game at least, but ShoWTimE does have map control for the time being. Yeah, chilling.
He's just on the hunt. He's even looking for that observer. We're hearing a lot of observer sound effects as they're all dancing around trying to avoid each other. And ShoWTimE is looking for that opportunity to just poke and deal damage. The Immortal kind of puts itself out as bait, but he gets it. Definitely a little overextended there. Maybe he wasn't expecting ShoWTimE to just make that reaction as quickly as he did, but well, he did. So a nice shutdown on his part. And ShoWTimE has taken the pocket base, so that's about to finish. But GunGfu is going for a true actual 4th, which will give him access to a little bit more money. Naturally, it's more exposed, but if ShoWTimE's not able to punish that, then it could work out for him in the long run.
Yeah, I wouldn't mind a blink forward here. Nice from GunGfu. He does have more stalkers, so we'll get to punish ShoWTimE a little bit, but now turning up that corner and going up that ramp, it's an easy escape for the German. I guess they're both German. That happens to me too often. It's like we have so many same country classics in StarCraft.
Yeah. So here we go. Prism making its way towards the main. The army of GunGFuBanDa is rearing its ugly head outside of ShoWTimE's natural. He's got the stalkers pre-spread, ready to defend. Is he prepared for the Zealots? He's going to put a pylon on the edge of his main as a spotter. He does have a cannon in the mineral line. And it looks like some Zealots try to backstab the 3rd. So he wants to turn this into a 3-pronged attack. And I think the 4 Zealots can deal with that cannon. So he's going to need to warp in defensively here. And he does. The cannon is dead, but he gets the warp prism. Very nice grab there. Guardian shield on the offensive side from the north, but not able to do a whole lot there either.
Yeah, the Zealots are just going to be tagged onto probes there, but there is a shield, 2 shield batteries, in fact, and a cannon. So GunGfu trying to work on this multi-prong aggression, but ShoWTimE is ready on every angle, so it's not going to work out, especially with the help of the shield batteries. At the same time, ShoWTimE is taking the back, or has taken the back 4th, whereas GunGfu does take a full 4th. So over time, that should favor GunGfu, provided that they stay on similar worker counts and provided that, you know, the other player doesn't expand faster. So yeah, this is a good choke as well for GunGfu. Good position to fight.
Yeah, and the income ends up somehow still being basically the same. I don't know whether it's just the worker count difference or what have you, maybe something a little suboptimal somewhere, but the money is there for both of them. And the transition into double Stargate, I thought, was a little bit interesting by GunGfu. He's not really done anything with it yet, but he's keeping his options open. Perhaps he doesn't want to do disruptors this time around and just wants to give himself that shutdown potential onto them. As the Zealots warp in on the right side for a run by, he doesn't know. Oh, does he though? Oh, maybe he saw the probe. He decides to check. He's going to find himself a nice little grab here. The recall on the Zealots, I get it, Cats. But that's a very, very important, valuable spell that he may want. I don't know. I guess if he's on the defensive, it's not that bad. He can wait out the cooldown, but it's a 2-minute cooldown. So it's not something you can just spam.
Yeah, completely agreed. Now both players working with very similar armies here. Mostly just charge slot stalker, and GunGfu has been intaking a lot less gas, I think, than ShoWTimE at this point, right? Like ShoWTimE has more gases taken, but GunGfu is the one going for the carrier transition. And ShoWTimE is going to get himself a really nice opening here at this base. No recall available, like you were saying as well, to kind of like transport some of that army there. And with that, ShoWTimE is going to take the economic lead as well. But at least it's not game ending at this point, because both players are so close to max that there's still going to be a big engagement that's going to play a larger role in that. But ShoWTimE will get now his own 5th base to mirror the position of GunGfu's, which means he's going to be 2 bases ahead for the time being when that finishes.
This is a big Zealot move out on the southwest for ShoWTimE. He's ready to trade out some of this supply for something perhaps a little more efficient, as he has been cranking out the disruptors, but
GunGFuBanDa trying to play the clock a little bit here, since he's not quite in a bad spot to do it, making his transition into carriers. ShoWTimE's going to donate a stalker there, and he's getting this +1 air. So ShoWTimE's moving into the upgrades, but he hasn't built the infrastructure. Now he's getting the fleet beacon. Now he's getting the extra Stargate, but that mothership is coming in for GunGFu, and we've got this move out on the northeast still, trying to do more damage to this 4th base.
Yeah, we see the split screen on your screens right now as both players are multitasking and microing their armies and their heads off here. Now, these disruptors are really strong to hold this position, and GunGFu doesn't have the luxury of them. Now he's going to be bottlenecked, but actually ShoWTimE maybe a little bit too quick to the trigger. Maybe could have pushed a little bit further with those disruptors before firing onto stalkers that were trapped up against the wall, basically. So, yeah, I mean, GunGFu gets out of a very sticky situation there by moving to fight onto this kind of like more open ground with his charge lot army. So perhaps an opportunity missed from ShoWTimE there. And at the same time, Nate, he has been intaking, like I was saying earlier, a lot more gas. So his carrier transition is a little bit heftier than GunGFu's, who is making just the 2 carriers at a time. Mothership is out for him, and now switching onto Phoenix of all things to try to account for the disruptors.
Yeah, and he's trying to have all of that set up and ready to deal with it, but this is still a huge army from ShoWTimE that is barreling towards him, and he's blinking very aggressively for trying to use the disruptors to zone away, saying, you know what, I don't actually need vision of your army to kill stuff with the Novas, and he's just shooting them into the darkness. Of course, well, he does have an observer with his army, but it's more bad if I say it that way. Mothership comes up, tries to force field the army, and he's going to work away on the natural expansion. His units are actually killing that Nexus while all of this is happening, so he's overcharging and trying to deal with that while the Stalkers continue to peel off of the Mothership.
It is actually super surprising to me that this is not nearly as bad as it looked like for GunGFu, given the Novas, given the position, etc. Like as far as the army is concerned. It's kind of an evenish trade, but he doesn't push the issue forward, and I feel like you have to after you just lost so much economy, and ShoWTimE is now taking a 6th base. You are on 4 effective bases. I mean, ShoWTimE might think that GunGFu has the back base and be okay with that, you know? Like, if he has it, it's fine, but GunGFu really, his one hope is a straight-up engagement where he actually just crushes ShoWTimE, and the Mothership is a super powerful unit, as we just saw in the last engagement as well. Like, it really makes it difficult for ShoWTimE to engage. So there is some semblance of hope.
Yeah, and this is still a pretty scary army. The Phoenix can still go in for the lift-ups onto the disruptors and take them out of play. There are carriers out for ShoWTimE now, though, and it's worth mentioning, his carriers have +1, so he's actually made the investments into the upgrades. Now GunGFu trying to poke the natural, but not finding much purchase just yet. And he's actually got a pretty serious number. He's got 5 carriers with this army over here. He could do a lot of damage. We know that the Phoenix can be strong against them, but they don't have the attack upgrades. They're not quite as strong.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, the Phoenix are here for the disruptors. They're gonna pick all of them, actually, as they pick off 2, and then the other one gets picked off in the back. Now it's the Stalker's job to go after the carriers. The carriers are trying to kill the other carriers, of course, and now trying to hide in this little pocket of airspace. But a lot of the carriers for ShoWTimE have fallen now, enough so that the Phoenix can maybe partake, but enough charge lots here are gonna push the remaining army of GunGFu back, who is forced to recall. And that, I mean, that was a cool engagement. There was some hope, Nate. I thought it was possible, but as it stands after that recall, it's nearly impossible to recover for GunGFu, as he's just trailing behind in every regard, especially in economy. So
yeah, ShoWTimE hadn't lost those bases. With everything that we've seen, all the harass in this game, not a lot of probes have died, but he had both of the bottom left bases pretty much uncontested for a long time, and he's got a Zealot run by ready to hit that natural once more. There is just a cannon and a battery there to defend it, so we'll need to bring something to help deal with that. The probes will try to fight. That typically is not something that is going to work. And while GunGFu did just finish his +1 for his carriers, and he got +2 level shields, +2 attack is now done for ShoWTimE's carriers. So his air is still going to be very strong, very difficult to deal with. And like you mentioned, his economy is great. Look at his bank. He maxed out again very quickly. And it might still be a little bit hard to focus down the Nexus if the Mama ship gets the detection kind of removed, but...
Oh, interesting. Yeah, I'm not sure about that blink, as there's still a lot of Zealots, so ShoWTimE, of course, knows that he can just turn around for the time being, but now that blink I like a little bit better, but it's later onto this Disruptor shot, clips 3 of the Stalkers there, as the 3 carriers of GunGFu now arrive into the fight, and that's going to be enough to push ShoWTimE back. Maybe he can get a little bit more on the retreat, but I mean, the slow air units are lagging behind, so he wants to regroup before continuing to press the issue there.
And this is still kind of an awkward spot. I actually really love the use of the time warp. It, messing. I think a lot of people forget that it reduces the attack speed of units that are caught in it as well. So everything that's trying to fight, you can't just be like, oh yeah, I don't care if I'm slow, I'll just fight you anyway. It's like, no, you're a lot worse fighting in this space. So good use of the controlling abilities for GunGfu to try and eke out an advantage, but he has been struggling to get what he's looking for out of it. And like you said, he's still behind in a lot of different ways that make this tough. ShoWTimE's in double Cybercore upgrade mode now. He's getting +3, and he's getting his armor upgrade. I'm sure we'll see another shield upgrade eventually if this goes long enough. But he just has so many bases. He can keep throwing units into him, and I don't really see any reason for him to stop.
He doesn't have a mothership though, right? Like the mothership feels to me like it has been the piece that has allowed for GunGfu to stay in these engagements and take like good engagements against an army that otherwise is just out and out match. And now ShoWTimE actually blinks onto the mothership, but that's gonna cost him a lot of units. As you can see here, all of the stalkers are getting surrounded. The disruptor's not able to connect. GunGFuBanDa, is he doing it? I mean, for this engagement, surely that was beneficial. ShoWTimE did add a lot of production, and that's have more or less unlimited resources coming in here, as he has the entire map as compared to GunGfu, but GunGfu has been taking incredible engagements. Again, courtesy of that mothership, that last one is incredible as well. Can he somehow turn it into something else?
This is getting out of hand, Cats. This is getting off the rails. The Tempests are going to start to come out for ShoWTimE. I think he's finally felt. I think that was like the moment where he felt mortal. He's like, okay, actually, I'm bleeding a little bit more here than I thought I was going to from that. And while he was able to max out very quickly, because again, money, warp-ins, all of that, GunGfu's army is still very powerful. And he's actually on top of that Stargate production. He canceled the air units he was building so he could get more warp-ins because he desperately needs all hands on deck. The Archons are coming here to take down the Interceptors. He still has his carriers in the back. Now the Stalkers are going to blink forward, but there's the Photon, there's the overcharge, excuse me, onto the shield battery to allow the carriers to survive the Stalkers' assault. And that could be what gives ShoWTimE what he needs. Let's not forget, of course, he did have that huge bank, but a lot of it now is in gas. So it'll take some time to get those Templar and make more Archons, but he has routed the army for the time being. And if you're GunGFuBanDa, what did he secure while all of this was going on? He took the top right base. There is still a Zealot in that natural, but so keeping that top right base, letting it finish, and actually getting workers there is going to be a different story, as ShoWTimE immediately is like, huh, let me guess. You're probably trying to take another base here, ain't ya?
Yeah, I mean, GunGfu took his back base as well at some point, so that helps him a little bit. But yeah, that was a brilliant engagement for ShoWTimE. I like what GunGfu was doing there. I think it was the right idea, right? You just took a good engagement. You know you're behind an economy. You attack one of the areas that should be most susceptible, least defended. But ShoWTimE, yeah, I mean, his ability to reinforce with the bank that he had, with the income that he had, and the amount of infrastructure that he was adding exactly for a moment like this, in case he was to lose a big engagement, is what will pull through for him. And yeah, I mean, he takes down that base. One of the last glimmers of hope for GunGFuBanDa, who played a hell of a series, working with much less. Up until that engagement, I think he was trading efficiently against an opponent that had more a lot of the time. So big props to him. Maybe he should have played for this later games. Maybe he could have played a little bit more of a macro style, but ShoWTimE will stand tall here. It looks like a 3-1 to me. Oh,
the DT YOLO coming through. Gets one of them with the disruptor, but he has two observers on the army, does GunGFuBanDa. So he recognized, hey, if I take out the detection, then I can open this up a little bit. And he's like, well, I'm going to warp in my own Dark Templar now. And we have the observer finally coming up for him, so he can clear those out. And that's all she wrote, folks. ShoWTimE is going to take this 3-1 as he's up 100 supply, and GunGFuBanDa put up a great fight, says GG Brats, and GG is called. But